Welcome to Cash in the Cyber Sheets. I'm your host, James Bowers, and together we'll work with business leaders and industry experts to dive into the misunderstood business of cybersecurity and compliance to learn how to start making money from being secure and compliant. Welcome to Cash in the Cyber Sheets. Hey everyone, welcome back to Cash in the Cyber Sheets. I'm your host, James Bowers, Chief Security and Compliance Architect here at Input Output. As always, I'm very excited to have you back here with us. So, you may have noticed that a few systems, a few computers here and there had a little bit of an issue last Friday. Yeah, the 19th. A few computers had a little bit of a problem. I think at one point, someone said it was up to 1 billion systems affected over the world. Talking about the Microsoft CrowdStrike issue. A little bit of an issue with Microsoft Azure, but I think the brunt of it is really on CrowdStrike, and I think it comes down to a really bad update that was pushed out. But it took things sideways. Airports were offline, 911 locations, a lot of municipalities were offline, not to mention businesses everywhere, all kinds of devices, just absolute mayhem. And it's incredible. It's incredible how it happened. But I wanted to devote an entire show, and we've got actually Bryan coming up again, I think this week, to actually talk just about this. But with that said, past week has been absolutely bonkers. Taking care of clients, helping to get things sorted. But just wow, what an incredible mess with CrowdStrike, right on the heels of all the other data breaches and everything else going on. Just absolutely incredible. I cannot imagine the amount of Tums and Pepto-Bismol that their IT department, software development, QA is having over at CrowdStrike. Just what a horrendous phone call to get. Ugh, I shudder. This is why I'm more on the planning side now, because I don't want those calls. But we help with incident response and such, so we get those calls. But man, what an absolute mess. This week, do have a few things to talk about. Didn't get to put a whole show together, like I said, because of the CrowdStrike thing going on, but did get together with Bryan. Like always, we got right into the conversation as soon as we connected. Didn't even have time to do an introduction, so it's a little bit of a trip over. And we're going to come right into him talking about nano ledgers, encryption keys, kind of single points of failure, and then a little bit about the credit system, how that's set up, and then finally some good things about DoorDash. So a little bit all over the place with the talk with Bryan, but it actually all kind of fits together. So I'm going to get into that in just a second. I've always got to remind you, I've always got to ask. Don't forget to jump over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to us at, YouTube. Click that subscribe button. Send us some comments. Let me know what you want to hear about. Happy to put together shows specifically for you, and we'll even give you a shout out. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. We're coming actually right, like I said, right in the middle of the conversation with Bryan. But I was going to edit it all out, but it's actually not so bad, and it really fits with some of the stuff we've talked about with the nano keys. So no more ado. Getting right into it. Cash in the Cyber Sheets here with Bryan. Here we go.
Short version is the issue that I had with the nano ledger is I purchased some Bitcoin. I wanted to be able to store it and the most secure way, which at the time seemed to be a cold storage wallet, which is essentially a USB that it goes on. So I bought the Nano Ledger, I got it all configured, got my, well, I guess technically the Bitcoin isn't on it, but the key to access it is on it. Um, and then I put it, I'm going to say in a safe. By safe, I mean I put it in like the desk drawer. Um, Years later, literally a few years later, I was like, huh, Bitcoin skyrocketed. Let me see what I have, right? I don't remember what I bought. Let me take a look at it. Only to discover that multiple updates had gone out for the Nano Ledger, firmware updates. Apparently, there was a pivotal update where if you hadn't updated by this time, you are no longer able to update your Nano Ledger. Um, Sounds like a catastrophic fail. Ultimately, it wasn't. They were pretty good about it. I got to give the company credit. When I reached out to them, as you can imagine, I was pretty fuming that I no longer had access to my Bitcoin. They sent me out two brand new Nano Ledgers for free, with the updated firmware, obviously, and then with instructions on how to, you know, basically back up. As long as you have the, what's it called, the mnemonic, I don't know how you pronounce it, but as long as you have that, you essentially still have access to the Bitcoin key. So I was able to get access to the Bitcoin, but it got me thinking, kind of like with the YubiKey, what a huge potential fail, right? If it's something that you don't, right? So like with the Bitcoin, with the Nano Ledger, you shouldn't have, I get it, right? Well, you should be staying up to speed with updates. Not everybody's in the tech world. Not everybody wants to constantly be, plugging
Well,
this in and updating.
so introducing Bryan Barnhart from
Hi,
Infiltration Labs. We've had you
how you doing?
before. We started recording kind of in the middle of our conversation about the YubiKeys keys and the authenticators and the problems. And I agree 100% with you on there that it creates like this almost shadow single point of failure that a lot of people don't consider. And I don't think it's appropriate that with some of these solutions, you have to keep updating it
Yeah,
because every time I do an update, I'm also rolling the dice, even if it's a very small chance that it's going to brick it or that something's going to hiccup or that it does something to mess with the certificate or the key and now it doesn't work at all.
yeah,
And we've talked about it before. I think you're trying to get away from having to monitor so many different things and create checklists. Okay, did I update my ledger? Did I update this? Did I swap this out? I mean, I'm in the compliance space, but
yeah. But
that
you want to be able to
sucks.
have like a break glass kind of thing, right? Like with the ledger and with the YubiKey, right? I imagine in the same fashion, I'd like to know that I could, you know, have a break glass account with the YubiKey and have that sitting in a safe somewhere that, right, if the wheels come off the wagon, I can access it and then get into that account, right? Kind of like with the ledger. I don't want to have to constantly be keeping up to speed with it. I'd like to put it in a safe deposit box or in a safe. And then, when the Bitcoin hits, $1 million a coin, be able to go pull that out, log in, and, voila. Um, but to have to constantly be concerned with, shoot, right? Is it no good? Is it bricked because I didn't update it, every 3 months that they put an update out?
Hmm. Interesting you say that because that's what's turned me into a little bit of a fanboy with the YubiKey, the ability to actually create the break glass and also, I say technically duplicate it. Or actually, maybe it would be logically duplicate it because you can't really duplicate a YubiKey,
Mhm.
but you can duplicate the functionality. So essentially, you could have 50 of them. So if one breaks, I've got another one. Um, so that's definitely a cool thing. And with a lot of platforms, you can do multiple YubiKeys. But you had the problem before to where it's really cool that you can just plug the thing in and sign in to Mac, sign in to Windows when it works.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you had that issue where you plugged it in and it didn't work. And what happened there? How were you able to get into the system, or what exactly is the issue?
So I mean, keep in mind, this is going back a bunch of years ago. Um, so hopefully all that's been resolved since then. But essentially, it went from working to not working. If I remember correctly, when I Googled it, it was, and I'm just ad-libbing here, right? I think this is what it was, is once upon a time, you could plug in the USB and it would pass along the information. Um, and then I think whatever the update was, it no longer would allow the YubiKey to pass along which doesn't make sense to me, right? Because technically you could plug in an external keyboard and type. So I honestly don't remember what the issue was. I just know that it didn't work. My saving grace was that it was simply a static password, right? Static text in slot one. So I was able to just, you know, put it into another computer essentially, um, text, and then just painstakingly type that long string of characters with the addition of the password part because that's what I was doing, right? Is I had, my 8-character password, we'll call it, and then the YubiKey that would
Basically,
complete
basically a two keys. You
it.
turn your key on that side, I turn this key on this side, and it
Yeah,
creates
kind
the
of.
whole
Yeah,
password and
yeah,
gets you in there.
exactly.
Well,
So that was the fix. Is I just had to like manually type it in and then change the password. And when I had Googled it, it was this is a new issue. So I just scrapped it altogether.
so I'm definitely not one for having like the single point of failure because even the YubiKeys, any device out there, it can fail. And now I think you can actually, I think before, like you were using it, you could just use it for the password and it would kick it out when you tapped it. Now I think it can actually, I believe it throws a pass key on the device or some other way is looking for the actual um, key itself
Mhm.
to log you in. So you pop that in, and it's basically oh, okay, you have the key, you can get in. Um, and I think you can even on Windows set it up with a pin as well, so that way somebody couldn't just walk in. Um, not just with YubiKey, but I've had issues where signing in with my primary Microsoft 365 account even hiccuped, and then I couldn't get into my device. So I think always having that kind of break glass local administrator account is always a good thing. So if one
Yeah.
of one of the authenticators goes sideways, all right, I can still get in, I can fix it. But I think even now with it, and this is a discussion on end user devices, it's not that I don't think it's that big of a deal if you're using Google Suite, Microsoft 365, because your computer is basically a glorified browser and application processor. It's not everything's not stored on there. So if I have to wipe it, I can just connect. Um, I can connect another way or just reflash the computer.
Hmm.
It would definitely suck if I do it for my server or for Azure AD to get in there. Um, I think I should ring a bell there. That was the end of that thought. But but definitely a cool thing to where I think it's neat to where you can use the key for people to just plug in. They don't want to do all their passwords. They don't want to do all kinds of stuff. Great. Just plug this in, keep it on your actual keychain. That way, when you walk away, device locks. You can't get into it until you're sitting back at it.
Right.
So,
Right.
that's a seesaw of there's definitely ways around it. Um, how serious is it to get around those? Um, I think there's steps you can take, but it is pretty cool being able to use that. And there's even other solutions out there. Um, I don't think it was, I think it was one of our IT partners showing me. but it essentially used an NFC with a that managed all the user accounts.
Hmm.
So I could tie multiple NFC tokens to the same computer. So like at a doctor's office, multiple people could just click right into it, and they don't have to have all the different accounts, which most doctors' offices don't do, and most of them just leave the computer open always.
Right.
Um, so cool things with the keys, but definitely there's the bad side of it. You don't want to set it up to where it's the only way in because they can break too. Um, but like in our primary accounts, our big ones, when you set one up, you just set another up. So if one of them breaks, you've got the backup.
Got the backup. Yeah.
That leads me to I started dinking around with Ubico Authenticator. And I guess to preface it, the biggest problem I've had that I hadn't been able to find a solution for before without doing just like a break glass account that was open is all of the authenticators on my phone. That's really the only place that they're at. And you can you can export those to another device
In
or
theory.
in theory. 50% of the time it works for 50% of the ones that you're trying
Hmm.
to export. And it's not that the other 50% of the time they all work, it's the other 50% of the time none of them work.
Yeah.
So if I lose my phone, if there's not a backup admin or somebody that can get me in there right then and there, I'm SOL.
Yeah.
I've lost everything, and that's a serious single point of failure. The Ubico Authenticator lets me create those OTPs, but I can clone it to multiple devices. So I'm actually going to share it with you here because this might get you back into using the Ubico.
Okay.
There we go.
Remember, we
All right.
had this discussion before, right? Remember about technology is awesome and it's super convenient when it works. But when it doesn't, it tends to be catastrophic.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how catastrophic is it sometimes, or are we just relying on it and it seems catastrophic? I don't know. That's a philosophical thing.
Uh,
But so here's the Ubico Authenticator. Nothing here. There's not a key present. I haven't plugged anything in. I can install this. Obviously, it's on my system here, but I could install this on your computer. I can install this on my Mac, my Windows, my mobile devices. I could install this on 1,000 different systems, and there's no access until I put in the key. So let me get the key put in here. Can I do it without looking? There we go. Bam. So now it sees my key, um, and I can do all kinds of things in here. But with the accounts, now if I open this up, I've got those protected with a password, which isn't the default. But now with the password, I've got all of my OTP codes right in here.
okay. Nice.
And what's cool is I can't duplicate the YubiKey. I'm just going to get these. Let me just stop sharing. There we
Why?
go.
Why would you want to do that?
I'll start actually throwing all the codes up. You know what? I'll show you one.
Notepad's good for that.
Yeah. Um, but I've got all the OTPs on here. I can even code it to where when I go to say, okay, like give me my code for Microsoft, I actually have to touch the device again, so it does the presence challenge, and then it gives me the 6-digit code. I can't duplicate the key, but if when I'm setting it up, I do another one, or if I save the QR code, the secret key for the authenticator,
Yeah.
I can clone that to thousands
I
of
gotcha.
different keys.
Okay.
So I've got a complete backup of all of these OTP codes. I lose one of the keys, doesn't matter. I've got another one. Both of those break out, something in the safe, just in case. That's kind of the break glass.
Mhm.
What's also really cool with it is if I'm, say, an IT company, an MSP, and some of the accounts, we've only got one account for this customer. It's got an OTP on there. We're going to provide it to one of the people, and we just have to reach out to them to get in. This way, I could give everybody a YubiKey, and they could each have the same authenticator. I could give that to as many people that would need access to it. And yeah, you can put some of that stuff in like not Bitdefender, Bitwarden, or Keeper Security, or some of the other password managers.
Right.
But I just don't like doing that because we've helped companies that had their password manager compromised.
Yeah.
So if you have all of your OTP codes in there, that kind of defeats the purpose. It's both the keys in the same spot. So this is a really cool way. I've been using this and getting a lot of accounts transferred over to it to, like I said, actually create a backup of the OTPs of those authenticator codes, and also be able to share that if you want to with however many other people you want to.
I like it.
And you can also do the pass keys and other stuff on there. But yeah, the authenticator is very cool. So if I'm at my computer, I can use it. If I'm on my phone, I can do the NFC. I can still use it. Very, very cool. The only, it's not I don't think it's a gotcha. But drawback is I can do 32 OTP accounts per YubiKey device.
Got it.
It won't support any others.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine that's just a memory allocation issue.
Right.
Right. You know, how many secret codes they can store, how much they set aside for that. But very, very, very cool. And we use I use the FIPS version for the extra security. Honestly, the non-FIPS is, one, it's cheaper, but two, it also comes out with a lot of the new updates and new capabilities far before the FIPS ever does.
Does it? I got to look back into it. Like I said, it was in the late teens when I bought my first YubiKey, I'm pretty sure. So it's been some time since I've played with it. Let's see.
Yeah, we've had them for a while, and like I said, I used it for some of our more critical accounts as the actual second form two-factor. But now with the authenticator, I don't have to worry about losing the phone and having a backup. So just really, really cool. I've been playing with that and showing a lot of our IT partners. They've been adopting it.
I just looked it up. Sorry. I just looked it up. I actually didn't realize it was this long ago. My first YubiKey, first YubiKey purchase was in 2012. That
really shows your age when 13 years go by. You're like, I don't know how long that was.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago.
A couple years, few months. I don't know. Maybe it's last week. What you should do is get pictures from those times and put pictures with all those different things. So when you go back and you look it up, you can see what you looked like and just really kind of jab that knife in the side.
Yeah, see how technology has aged me. Yes.
Yeah. It's technology, and the dryer is against me.
Yeah, look at this young buck
all my clothes.
Didn't play on computers. Yeah. Here he is a year after working on computers. 20 years old.
Actually being in IT.
Yeah.
Well, I think that actually, I think, goes into the last topic. So we were talking before, talked in some of the previous podcast about the CDK breach, which affected around 50% of the dealerships in the US. So major issue. Some of them completely shut down because they didn't have good continuity plans, and which is really why you should reach out to somebody like Bryan.
Absolutely.
But it impacted a lot of people, and now there's the AT&T breach. It's not a new breach. It's been going on since 2022. They discovered it in April. They let us know now. And there's also a lot of people haven't heard of Evolve Financial. And Evolve is actually the backbone to a lot of other financial institutions. So they manage, well, they manage a lot of the transactions for the financial institutions. So millions upon millions of records over the past few months are out there again. And it got me thinking with, so CDK, not CDK, some of the other ones they're putting out there, okay, we're going to get you credit monitoring. But have we gotten to a point to where I don't want to say the credit agencies, and maybe they knowingly did this. I'm not trying to libel anybody, but are we now at a situation to where the quote unquote problem, all of our data getting out there, all of the identity theft, is because of the system that we set up, and the same system that's set up that way, that's profiting off of it, also happens to sell the solution to it in the credit monitoring. Yeah. And the big businesses, the financial institutions, all of those companies are profiting and using all of that marketing data. Basically, they want to have all that data to be able to market, to know who to sell what to, where the people that want to buy their stuff is at. And I'm not against that. If there's stuff I want to buy, I want the people selling it to be able to find me so I can buy it. But all of these problems are now coming down on the smaller businesses and then all the way to the consumer, that we're having to pay the price for it. So we're shelling out all this money. Small businesses are shelling out all this money and having to do all these compliance jumps just to support the ability for these major companies to be able to market.
I've got so many comments, I don't even know where to start.
I figured it would
I don't want to. Yeah, I get really passionate with this, so I'm going to try to monitor.
I'm going to throw this in too.
Yeah,
I just want to throw this into it. I don't want to interrupt you, but looking at an FTC do not call complaint issue with a client, and really digging into it, it actually does give a private right of action. Somebody calls me in violation of do not call. I put my number on there. They violated the rules. I can sue them for $500. So
I know an attorney that deals with this stuff specifically.
We should
talk offline about that.
Yeah. But the FTC can impose roughly $51,500 fine for every single call. So are the regulations really supporting and protecting the people that they're saying that they're doing, or is it just creating more and more financial revenue streams for regulators and the credit agencies and all of the others that developed the system that created the problem? Okay.
Yeah. The short answer is yes. To answer your question, my opinion is yes. I feel like the large corporate, and I'm not anti-capitalism, so don't misinterpret this, but it's all the large corporations. They're the house, right? They're like the casino, right? They're the house. They always win. Right? The financial institutions, the banks, right? The big credit card companies, they never take the loss, right? They make up the rules, they divvy out the fines. It either rolls down to the merchants or it rolls down to the consumer, right? But ultimately, they don't lose. And to piggyback off of what you said previously, and they are in the best position that, I mean, let's be honest, with like the major credit card companies, they also offer credit monitoring. So there's, again, this is just my personal opinion, it seems like there is zero incentive for them to thwart fraud, right? Because they're still getting their dime, right? They're still getting their piece from transactions. Plus, they get to penalize the merchant if there's a breach. Um, right. So, I mean, ultimately, and again, this is just my personal opinion, it seems like there is no incentive for them to stop fraud,
No,
which is why we're not going to see an end. I mean, so let's jump back to what year was it? Was it 20? What year was EMV supposed to be implemented? Right, the chip and pin. So now we got all of these cards, and I'm sure we see it in our percentage, right? I'm sure that the credit card companies didn't implement these new physical cards at a cost to themselves, but it was all for naught, right? The chip and pin. When have you ever typed in a pin to authenticate your card? You don't, right? You just insert your credit card and it's done, right? And the humorous thing is if you buy a chip reader, it contains more data points than the magnetic stripe did. So we just widened, I'm sure some credit card person will come on
how
and
much
argue this out with
information's
me,
on
but
there?
ultimately it changed nothing. It changed absolutely nothing, right? Going from the mag swipe to the chip did nothing. You
Well,
still don't have to verify in any way. You just slide the card in and you're done.
and even if it does, because there's definitely I think that you can see data as far as if it's a swipe, if it's a type in, if it's a chip, how much of those are fraud or chargebacks, and a smaller percentage on the chips. Not enough for them to avoid making the money on everything else, because like you said, they just charge it back to the business in most cases. So they're still getting their revenue stream. They charge it back to the business, or me as a consumer. Now I need to try to, or I need to go through the hassle of getting that fixed. And okay, so you created this credit system so that you can sell to me, and you can put me into debt to make a lot of money off the debt. Okay, fair enough. I get my house. That's a good agreement. But now, if I don't want to get screwed over for the system that's supporting your financial interest, I need to pay a monthly subscription fee just to be able to monitor everything, because a lot of credit card companies now offer the, hey, here's your credit report, here's some changes, but it's not the
Yeah.
full thing.
Right.
If you want the full credit report, well, it's only this much money a month, from
Yeah.
14.95 all the way up to 50. And is it Experian or Equifax? Um, TransUnion, and I think it's TransUnion and Equifax, allow you to lock your credit. No cost. You can lock the credit. Experian, I believe, charges you for that. So hey, if you don't want to keep it open, you got to pay us a monthly fee, or you can write in and have it fully locked down. But then it's this complete arduous process to
To unlock it.
to unlock it.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. I wanted to bring that up and get your thoughts on there. Um, but it's with more and more of the regulations. I don't know. It's not helping, because like with the, I don't know if we talked about it, but the FinCEN, beneficial ownership information. Well, all right, now I've got to give all of my information to that registry, driver's license, everything, which because of know your customer laws, Evolve had all of that, and now that's everywhere.
Yeah. I'm waiting last minute to submit that. I just got my notice last month.
I'm in the same boat. So now I'm going to put it all in this other database that is most definitely, absolutely 100% going to be secure. Yeah. Okay. And it's supposed to stop the financial crimes, but it doesn't even apply to businesses over $5 million a year in gross revenue. It doesn't apply to nonprofits. It doesn't apply to companies directly supporting the nonprofits, which, by the way, are some of the biggest money laundering
Hmm.
type of structures that there are out there. So
It's
we're
security
not.
theater. It's security theater,
It's
right?
it's
It's
all
just
smoke
like
and
TSA.
mirrors.
It's
Yeah,
it's security
and
theater, right? It looks good, it sounds good, but everybody knows that it's not really doing anything, right?
and
I
here's
mean,
how
even a
we can
broken
charge
clock is
you
right
all
twice
this
a day.
extra money.
Yeah,
We've just created all these new revenue streams and fines, and we're going to keep you protected. No, you're not. Just like with the FTC do not call and with the campaign registry. Well,
yeah, that
this is
worked
going to
well.
help. This is going to help reduce texting and unwanted calls. The hell, it is. I'm getting about like 50 texts a day
Yeah,
from all types of political campaigns, which, hey, those are exempt. Um, it doesn't stop any of those. It doesn't stop if I'm trying to scam somebody, any of those. All it does is create more steps that a business has to go through. And if they misstep, they're going to get nailed in multiple fines.
yeah.
$51,000 per phone call. And the consumer gets $500. Who's that protecting? That in no way does that make any sense whatsoever. And if I'm a business that wants to make calls to all 50 states, I believe it costs like $22,000 a year to be able to get the do not call list for all the states, for everywhere.
That was a
So it's turning into a thing to where this margin needs to be so massive to be able to support all of the risk, the missteps that are absolutely eventually going to happen.
yeah.
Um, to be able to support that only large companies can, and it's just creating this environment that small companies can't even manage or compete in.
Right.
And as a consumer, just like we've talked about with the tech, I think we're going the other way, that now it's just more of a headache. So now every week I've got to check my credit. All right. Oh, now I need to also monitor my title on my house. Um, okay, and I need to pay all these extra subscription fees. Just, you know what? I don't want any credit. I
Yeah,
don't want to do anything. I'll just do all cash. Well, now you can't do that, and if you put in too much into the bank, you're suspicious. So
yeah. It's amazing. There's a lot of places that just won't even take cash,
no,
which blows my mind, right? I mean, I don't know. I should probably know this, but I thought you had to accept whatever the national currency was, right? Whatever the what's that word I'm looking for? There's a word
that's
there.
that's funny that you bring that up. I was just trying to find definitive documentation that can I say no, I don't want to accept cash, because even right on it, it says this is
Legal
for
tender. Yeah,
all
U.S.
all
legal
legal
tender.
tender for
Yeah.
all debts. What the hell does it say? Let me find
Yeah,
the
look it
big
up.
bill that shows up on camera, so I look like our company's actually doing well. Uh, yeah, look at that.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah,
Holy moly.
this is what we made this month. I'm very proud of it. I think I'm going to put it in a frame. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So, I mean, I should be able to use that anywhere, but like you said, a lot of places don't take it. And if a business takes a lot of cash and they go to deposit it, they have to pay money on the amount of cash that they're depositing,
Yeah.
because the financial institution says that, well, we've got to process it, we've got to count it, we've got to
Yep.
secure it, we've got to store it. I mean, I thought that was the agreement, that like we'll do loans and we'll go into debt with you, and you'll hold our money to use to to use for mortgages and everything else. And it's you seem to be like double, triple, and quadruple dipping. It's
I seem to remember years ago where it was who was it? I don't know if it was the bank, but basically they wanted you to opt into paperless billing because it was more efficient and cheaper, right? You'd get like a discount, right? Because now it's paperless. We don't have to mail it out. However, now it looks like we get convenience fees on all of these things. Right now there's the $1, $2, whatever it is, for a convenience fee.
Oh, yeah, for the processing. It's like
It's
the
like I thought
Ticketmaster
this was to
crap.
make life easier. Yeah, like you just eliminated jobs, and we're still paying for it.
Hey, I want to buy
entirely
this
make
ticket
sense.
online. Okay, well, here's the convenience fee for that. You know what? F that. I'll just go ahead and pay and pick it up at the booth. Oh, okay. Well, here's the on-site processing fee.
Yeah,
Why don't you just put
yeah,
it in your price? Stop
right.
being like hotels that say like, it's only like $50 per night, and then by the end of it, it's like 360, $500 because of resort fees and
So I don't. You
service
just said
fees.
resort fees. I don't know if this is a new thing, but this is semi-new here. Is I'm in Plantation, and we noticed that there's a couple of restaurants that now have an entertain. I think it's called an entertainment fee, or it's something along those lines. It's small, but it's like what? What? what explain this to me. What is this? There was an explanation. I just don't remember what it is off the bat. When you said that, it made me think of it. That I'm like, oh my god! So now we're paying tax. You know, in some places they automatically add the gratuity, which is a whole nother thing, right? Like I like to over tip, but it pains me that when you go to get takeout, that sometimes like right, you've got the electronic board, right? And your options are, and this is where I was going with this is when I was a kid, I think the standard was 10%. And if you had really good service, it was 15%. And over the years, there's been scope creep on that, right? So where did we go? We were at a hotel recently, and the starting percentage was 22%. And then it worked its way up to 30. I'm like, this is insane. Like, I just don't like I said, my wife and I, we love to over tip. I think it just, right? Maybe that's our virtue signaling. It makes us feel good. Um, but, but I don't want to be forced into it. Right? I don't want to be, we just jump from breaches to tip percentages. This is amazing.
Yeah,
Best
it's
podcast ever.
screw it all. Everything's against us. And also the kids today. No, you know what? We're kind of hitting the time, but I'm there with you with the tips. It 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 absolutely bugs me, and we tip a lot. We over tip as well, especially if we get good service. Um, I, I want to take care of them.
Yeah.
But on the other side, if I didn't get good service, I've not given tips before. Like your service was so bad that I'm not paying you for it.
Yeah.
That's the tip. That's what that is. It's an agreement. Hey, you
You
give me
write the
really
tip
good
on the receipt.
service.
Be nice.
Yeah, you
Be
make
nicer.
you make this an enjoyable experience, and for that I'll give you money for it. You make this a crappy experience, I'm paying for that.
Along
Let
those
that
same
let
lines,
that
that's
blow up
why
the
I stopped
comments.
using, yeah, along those same lines, I stopped using DoorDash entirely. They they screwed me
Talk about double dipping.
way too many times.
Yeah.
But talking about double dipping. So what would pain me is you tip what you're paying a service. First off, they're marking up the food prices. You're paying a service fee. There's some other bullshit fee that's on there usually. Um, and then and then
Transportation fee.
yeah, transportation fee. Is that what it is? And then I'm tipping. What would make me mad is when so you're paying all of this prior to the delivery,
Hmm.
and then I get not by fault of the restaurant, but by the driver, right? So DoorDash created. I don't know if you use DoorDash, but apparently they implemented this new thing where if you want your food to come directly to you, you can pay an additional fee. I think it's like $3 more, $5 more, whatever it is, for express delivery. Now, it's not express other than the fact that now they're not able to stack orders. If you don't pay this fee, at least where I'm at, normally what happens is I'll see my driver pick up my food, and then I see them go to another restaurant to pick up somebody else's delivery, and sometimes they're waiting there for their food. So this is what brought it to a head. Is this exact thing happened
Your ice
twice
is all
in
melted.
less than a week's time, where I ordered food. I'm watching the driver sit in the same spot. So I'm right. They don't reach out to me, so I'm chatting with support. right? And anyhow, now I'm just going down the bitch
you
thing.
know,
But my issue is you're paying the tip. I'm tipping them well, hoping that I'm going to get good service, and then I get 180 degrees off of good service. And I'm like, well, now I want that
well,
effing tip back.
it almost kind of feels like, are you going to give a good tip? How good of service do you want?
But that's the issue. I'm
And
thinking that I'm stacking the cards in my favor by giving a good tip, and it's almost like, oh, well, now the tip's there. F him, right? You can't take it back, right? You can't
I
roll it back
really
at that
like the
point.
visual that it creates of you ordering the food and watching on the app. You're just watching where
I did. I did.
where that car's at. Ugh, he's at another restaurant. I mean, were you actually on your patio rocking in a chair, like just yelling at kids going by while watching this? And
I was out front kicking my trash can, the neighbor's trash can, yelling, I don't know, curse words. Yeah.
pulled something in my back. Ah, my head.
Hey, what made me crazier the first time it happened, the food, after an hour, I log in to see what's going on. It says the driver's waiting for your food. The map shows them sitting in a residential area. And I'm like, they're home. They're at home. Ultimately, here's what I figured out what happened. They went to get my food. The food must have been backed up. They decided we're just going to go home. Screw it. We'll go home. If they can't, my guess is if they cancel the order, they probably get dinged. If we cancel it, it's not a ding on the driver. So I'm watching, right? And of course DoorDash support, they're like, oh, we can't get a hold of the driver. I'm like, you can't get a hold of the driver because they went home and they want me to cancel the
Right.
order so it doesn't penalize them. I'm like, can you see the map? And they're like, no, sir. I'm like, look at the map. I'm like, they are sitting at home. It's a resident. They're sitting at home. They're done.
What
Nobody's waiting to pick up my
what
food.
is this?
It's been an hour and 45 minutes. They're like, what would you like us to place the order again? I'm like, no, no. It's been an hour and 45 minutes for Chipotle.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it there. The conversation definitely takes some different turns here going on, and I don't know, maybe we'll create a bloopers reel one day. But that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you very much for listening to Cash in the Cyber Sheets. Please don't forget, hit those subscribe buttons, leave some reviews, some comments, tell your friends, tell everybody about us, and come back and see us next week. If there's anything you want to hear about, just let us know. But thank you again for listening to Cash in the Cyber Sheets. We'll see you next Thursday at 10 a.m. Thanks for listening.